叫刘伟杰，游戏 ID 叫Shaxy，然后我有 Twitch、Facebook。白头奶的 ID 其实是好像是朋友帮我取的，因为那时候就是想要一个酷炫的英文名字，然后还是帮我取之外，我才知道原来这叫念Shaxy。炉石最经典的回忆应该是那个世界赛奥斯卡跟泰斯打的那一场，就是兵法打兵法内战这样，就是两边打的几乎也是水深火热，很感动。我最喜欢的大师职业选手就是 RDU， 因为我是看他比赛才看到有点感动，我才喜欢上这款游戏。对我而言，成为大师的话，就是代表说我在这款游戏中我被认可了，我会继续努力。
I think I've been pretty predictable in the past because I just like to bring the strongest deck every time. But I feel like in Specialist, I can't afford to just bring the strongest deck and just beat every opponent because I play better than them. I respect Pathra a lot as a player. Like, she's very smart. I've seen her play since 2016. We've played together and I've gotten to know how she thinks about the game. And she is really good. I feel like there's people might look down on her because she's a woman, like the only woman in the tournament, the only girl. But I think people shouldn't look down on her. I think she's really good and she deserves to be here. Interesting stuff you may not know about me. I'm a very free spirit. I do everything what I want to do in life. If there's anything I want to do, I just go for it. I don't think about it. And if there's anything I want to achieve, I just do it. So, like, to give you an example, I quit college to pursue fashion photography, and then I ended up quitting fashion photography to pursue a pro gaming career in Hearthstone. Even though everyone was super confused about all my career choices and didn't understand why I was constantly doing these type of stuff, that's just me. I like doing everything. Oh, before that I was also doing breakdancing and I was working as a breakdance teacher. So yeah, I have lots of stuff I like to do.
Definitely a free spirit for Tyler, but a dedicated spirit as well, because anything he has tried, he has been successful at, which makes me very jealous as well.
And if you guys want to see any of that breakdancing stuff, he posts those videos on Twitter. Good content.
Or just go to his stream and tell him to do it. He often does. He's got the space in his room. But it's going to be Tyler versus Shaxy, and this is effectively, for the weekend at least, going to be a winner's match, as both players have won their previous matches. So whoever wins this one is going to be the one taking the 2-0 lead in this weekend. Let's check out the deck list as well and see what they're going to be bringing. It is going to be a Hunter Mirror. So let's have a look at Shaxy's list and maybe talk about some of the differences. I spot a single Unleash the Beast.
Yeah, I mean, this is probably the strangest of the Hunter lists we've seen throughout the weekend. Not that it's too strange, because I feel like the core of the deck is quite solved, and maybe there's 5 or 6 slots that differ, but what really stands out to me is the double Direwolf Alpha in the primary in the place of the Vicious Scale Hides, which most of the other Hunter players have been favoring throughout all 3 regions.
Yeah, and something I think I'm not sure how good it is overall if you say take this deck on ladder, but for me, if you're expecting Hunters, maybe Shaxy's plan is to just go faster and more efficient than the other Hunter players, because a lot of the matchups we talk about, oh, you know, it can go super late, or it can go this way and that way. Well, maybe Shaxy doesn't want to let them go that late at all and just say, well, actually, you're already dead, because Hunter Mirrors of old, which is definitely one way it can play out, if you push X amount of damage more than your opponent, you get past the point of caring about the board, and you keep being aggressive, which means your opponent, which is a Hunter, needs to start clearing stuff, or they'll die, or they're susceptible to death from cards like Kill Command. So it means that maybe Shaxy's just playing a more aggressive style overall.
In my opinion, I think this type of list is trying to go very hard into beating Mage, because now you have a consistent play on 2, outside of trying to just draw exactly Scavenging Hyena. But you do have a point that in the mirror, especially if the opposing Hunter is not running hatchets, then you can just run away with the early game. But I think Tyler has the one of, and we can check out his list.
Yep, he is running the one of, and as well as you mentioned in the last series, actually, the one of Rat Trap that Tyler's put in his core list. So they are going to be queuing up this one first, but there's double Deadly Shot, there's double Unleash, there's the single Rhino. I think overall, apart from the Rat Trap, this is a fairly standard list.
It's true. Tyler probably has a mind for being good against Rogue, starting with the primary deck because he does have that Rat Trap, as you mentioned, and the double scale heights. What's a bit different, I suppose, from Tyler is the choices going into the secondary deck, which has the Revenge of the Wild and Witchwood Grizzly. And Tyler did prep with Rivius this week and probably some other weeks. And so their secondary is for Token Druid and...
any hyper aggro.
Yes.
Any deck that goes faster than Hunter,
Yeah.
which aren't many, but there are a few. And if there are a few, then it's enough to maybe consider.
Yeah, because I feel Hunters have either been like having just the most standard list for the primary, good against everything all around, and then siding for Rogue. But the, Tyler and Rivius, I think, are trying to beat Rogue a little bit more in their primaries, and more so Tyler because he has a Rat Trap.
Yeah, and they said both these players, whoever wins, will be going 2-0 this weekend. But a special shout out to Shaxy, as if he wins, he will be going 6-0 in Grandmasters, which is an absurd start. 3 weeks with 2 matches a week, flawless victories throughout. So it's looking really good if Shaxy can take this win. But Tyler did mention in his winning interviews we had with him previously that he's been practicing a lot of Hunter. He is prepared for the mirror. He's already beat Samuel Zhao in the mirror previously this weekend, which means he's on good standing, whereas Shaxy actually took down Dawn, who was playing on a rogue list. So Shaxy, you know, at least for now, Tyler's 1-0 against Hunters this weekend, and Shaxy's just 0-0 because he's not played against one yet.
And can't wait to see the mirror because we've been going on and harping on about this all weekend, but there are just so many different ways it can pan out. The Tyler versus Samuel Zhao one did cover many of those ways, but I would say the draws were much more in Tyler's favor than Samuel Zhao's. So today I'd like to see both players on good draws and then just have it come entirely down to experience in the Hunter mirror.
Yeah. There are a lot of games, though, where they are about how you deal with a bad draw, and sometimes if you just play that a little bit better, you can get the win anyway. Speaking of draw, though, Master's Call in the opening hand from Tyler is just fantastic. I find myself just 100% keeping that card unless I have 2 of them, and then maybe I don't. Sometimes maybe I do, I don't know.
And have you gotten the chance to try out keeping Zul'jin in the mirror? I do think you brought this up, and personally I do like keeping it on coin, and especially if you have Master's Call already.
Yeah, I think, again, like Master's Call means you, in your opening hand, pre-mulligan, means that you can be so much more free with the way the rest of your mulligans go, because you know that you will 100% draw beasts to play from your deck from turn 3 minimum onwards. And that means Zul'jin is significantly better as a keep. I'm not sure if it's always a keep, at least. I've not had a chance to test it that much. But I do feel that with Master's Call it's fantastic. And just to note, Sottle was the one telling me a lot about the Zul'jin keep. Sottle, teammate of Tyler, actually. So it's no surprise that the opinion carries over as well. So I think even without the Master's Call, we could have seen a keep there.
I would agree. And the thing I mentioned about being on coin, not to say that coining Zul'jin is very good in the mirror. Oftentimes it's better to Zul'jin second, although there are cases where you're quite far ahead and your opponent hasn't played spells to remove your stuff, so that just an aggressive Zul'jin can get you there. But I also just think that having the extra card compared to somebody on the play means that keeping Zul'jin is less often a huge detriment if you draw badly.
Yeah. I think it's the Master's Call is just so good. It really does tie the deck together.
It is definitely what made Mid Hunter prior to this expansion and now still viable.
Yeah. Shaxy is going to be able to put on some of the pressure, though, and the freezing trap from the Shimmerfly is almost like 2-fold strength, because one, Tyler has to consider every secret in the game. There wasn't even a discover, so there's not even a thought of what the preferred secret is, to most extents. But then also Tyler will bounce a minion no matter what, and now Shaxy on curve with a Dire Frenzy means that may not be the best target overall, but it's just damage right now, and Tyler's probably just picked up the best card he can to deal with this situation instantly, at least in terms of proccing the freezing trap easily.
Yeah. And he also chooses to go for the Shimmerfly and Kill Command over Markshot because of the overdraw. And also now he's tested for Snipe. And I want to highlight that Shaxy snap played the Dire Frenzy, which, as you mentioned, Timberwolf is not the best target, but from the position of Shaxy, he's not had his Master's Call. He's running out of things to do, but what he does have is board initiative and also the pressure so far. Yes, Tyler's still very far from dying, but oftentimes in the Hunter Mirror, you need to play to this type of hand. Like, I guess my out is to kill them before they get to Zul'jin.
I mean, your hero power does 2 damage to face a turn. That tells you enough sometimes. Really funny now that both players got a secret from Shimmerfly. So Shaxy and Tyler have to just slowly do the checkbox of ticking off, okay, so it's not snipe, okay, cool, it's not this, it's not that, and keep going until they get the answer. But already, Shaxy is going to find out at minimum next turn that this explosive trap is going to just remove a Timberwolf from the equation if Tyler doesn't actually want to just unleash an Hyena. Unleash Hyena would be so sick this turn.
I think it looks pretty good, except that... has he tested for Snake Trap?
He has not.
So that is the kind of counterpoint, because you wish you could Spring Paw and then react to the possible Snake Trap with the Unleash, and then the turn is super sick. But I'm not sure if it's worth playing around Snake Trap. I mean, giving up a Hyena is worth playing as well.
Yeah, because this turn's decent unless it's exactly Snake.
Yeah.
Because the thing here is this also checks this, which is important when you've got cards that rush, right? You really want to just know that it's not freezing trap. And also, this is still pretty difficult to clear, right? It does require an answer from Shaxy, and with Shaxy on way less cards than Tyler in hand, it's just less likely he's going to get it.
Yeah. Shaxy, at least he has a decent answer with this Mark Shot, but he needs to get some type of card draw going. And I also want to highlight that he has double Rhino in the deck. That's why he felt pretty okay about playing the Rhino on curve. But I feel like this is coming down to a point where Shaxy needs the Rhinos and the buff Timberwolves to be able to get there, because Tyler's just had so much more value.
Mark Shot is a hell of a card, though. Even if the dream, obviously, Master's Call would be really good this turn if you can get it.
Yep.
Let's see what it is. And
another Frenzy seems counterintuitive to his plan, which is to try and draw more stuff. Maybe the Bomb Toss is just more damage to push.
what about the Goblin Prank? You can kill off the 1/1 and you get a spell. It's a tough one. Because that bomb never goes off, right?
Yeah.
There's almost no world in which the bomb goes off. I guess it's a Zul'jin target.
Yeah.
You can like put an extra minion on board with the bomb toss.
Well, what I was thinking is the Goblin Prank doesn't always go off either, because you need to stick something in order for it to push damage. Because
Oh, well, I'm at this
Russian.
turn.
Yeah.
Goblin Prank the Shimmerfly this turn, killed the Timberwolf because it has Rush.
Oh, yeah.
And then
okay.
you just gain the spell and call it a draw.
Okay.
You know.
But I was thinking maybe you'd rather the damage go face, in which case it does not guaranteed go face if you take Goblin Prank, but Bomb Toss does for at least 2. But yeah, it is pretty close. And Shaxy's gonna get the spell anyway, it looks like. And it really needs to be tracking or Master's Call ideally. Ooh, off the top, something to thin the deck. Kill Command. He's got so much burst.
No. He could Animal Comp and Deadly Shot this turn. We're just going to go for Kill Command, I think. Kill Command's more guaranteed. I just don't know how good it is versus having a minion on board.
I feel like Tyler can guaranteed deal, almost nearly guaranteed that he can deal with it, because there's just so much removal from his end. And I guess the plus side of not playing a minion is now Tyler doesn't have anything to run a potential skill hide into.
That's true.
Because I really think Shaxy's on this plan of just beat him down, and that's why he's hesitating on the Bomb Shot right now, because Bomb Toss right now, because it puts a minion on board, which the skill hide could heal Tyler.
It's also relatively cheap, which means it does fit into a lot of turns quite easily. The problem is it doesn't fit into Kill Command hero power, and it definitely doesn't fit into Unleash the Hounds, Kill Command.
Ooh.
That's a good one.
Yeah, he doesn't have the Frenzy to go along with it. But he could.
It's still a problem.
Yeah, and very well ignore the...
Yeah. He needs one more. He just needs to survive this turn, right?
Yes.
Because he can tell that Shaxy's just trying to do one thing and one thing alone.
I agree.
So now he can coin out Zul'jin, funnily enough. He does have the coin for it, which means that all Tyler needs to do is make himself as safe as possible this turn. And 15 health, where Shaxy has no damage on board, seems like a reasonable outcome. So far, there's only 12 available. So 3 off Off, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
So does he then have to unleash Direwolf Hero Power Kill Command? I think he can't.
Yeah.
Can he bail on the plan now? I don't think he can.
This is a really tough turn. I was even looking at Unleash and then double trade into the Scale Hide using the Bomb and 1 Hound. He could have gotten 13 if he had 1 more mana by killing off the Bomb this way, but
1 kill command puts him to 6, which means the say the Scale Hide heals for 1. That's 7, which is easily doable with this hand. As long as there's a minion on Tyler's side of the board. We can see that Coin Zul'jin's available, which puts him to 11. But that also generates a board, which means Unleash the Hound's kill command is more likely to get a kill for Shaxy. So this is very tricky, but I don't see an out for Tyler apart from exactly this. The only other thing he could have done was Mark shot into exactly Dire Frenzy to heal with the Scale Hide, but that is way too much of a long shot. Where's this kill command going?
oh, could be relevant.
Oh, the explosive trap helps. I forgot about explosive, to be honest.
It does, for sure. But Shaxy is now on a crazy timer. Granted, I think he still has the other kill command because one of them was discovered, right?
Yeah. Tyler Zul'jin. Oh no, he tracked, right? He tracked the kill command, didn't he?
Yeah.
So
did he track over one? I mean.
no, but he's played 2, and one of them was a tracking, not a discover, right?
And the other one
Oh,
was
did
a
he
discover,
generate one?
right?
Oh, okay.
Was it? Okay, now
I thought
I'm
he had a natural one and a tracked one, but I might be wrong. There's a lot of spells flying around in the metagame right now. But this is sick though. Zul'jin skillfully playing around Unleash the Hounds into lethal, especially with the explosive trap. And Shaxy, yeah, I mean that's probably the motion I would make as well because I don't know how you win this game.
You probably are just dead next turn.
I guess. Does he have to just hero power and pass?
I
Wait,
think
was he definitely dead next
with
turn?
this concede, I think that there was no second kill command in deck, and those were both natural. Because then he just really has no outs over 2 turns, right? Because I think that turn, if there were still another kill command in deck, he could hope to just get there with the hero power, and maybe Tyler, very unlikely, doesn't have lethal. But
he was up 15 though, right? With 7 shown. With the Rhino and the hero power. I just wondered whether because he had Unleash and yeah, he probably wouldn't have got there. But
it's just because of the Rhino on board.
yeah, that's going to be the game though. Tyler just about managed, and straight away we saw Shaxy just go for a highly aggressive approach. Whether that was because of the way he's built his deck or just because of what his hand did with a lack of Zul'jin being available, I guess we'll find out in game number 2. We're just going to take a quick break while we get ready for game number 2. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Well met, friend. Ooh.
Let's get this over with. I win!
Oh, what an amazing game! Well played!
Here's to the winner.
The Hunter Mirror is our feature match, but most importantly, it's the match between Tyler and Shaxy. Shaxy currently leading Division B with a 5-0 record so far, but the players have changed decks both onto their tertiary deck, so let's check them out and see what they've swapped to try and take down their Hunter opponent. It's going to be tertiary deck for Shaxy as far as I'm concerned, so what do you make of these additions here?
I mean, we saw in several Hunter mirrors, I think, the other day that you generally want to have things like Savannah Highmane in the mirror because they're just so difficult for the opposing Hunter to remove. And there are cases when having the Highmane can be bad if you fall too far behind in the early game. But these days, Hunter are running so much removal, double deadly shots and mark shots and things like just the Spring Paw can safely get you to turn 6. So I think that makes a lot of sense for Shaxy to switch into that. However, the removal of Unleash I don't think is necessarily what he wanted to do for the Hunter mirror. This is more a thing for Warrior.
Yeah, it's a tough call, right? Because you do have some byproducts of being able to add in this late game, and even the life drinkers for a bit of just mixing the health of being able to heal and deal damage from hand. But even Shimmerflies, I think being able to just chuck stuff down early and quick is pretty good. And the additional spells, I think Hunter's spells are in a good spot right now. That often you can make decent use of them. So it's going to be a very interesting one for me just to see how this plays out.
Yeah, I'm sure Shaxy did not really have the mirror in mind when building his sideboard decks because Life Drinker as well, not the greatest. Some people really like it to just give you a little bit more reach, but oftentimes the game goes more towards the late game and the little bit of reach is less valuable than having like a great Zul'jin to come back. And also the Augmented Elec is an inclusion to just shuffle more things with Dire Frenzy for specifically Warrior, but then again, just having a 3-4 on curve is pretty decent, I'd say.
Yep, just more stuff to play on curve and less conditional cards that are going on. Let's check out Tyler's list and see what he's done. He's also switched to his tertiary deck, and he is going to gain a Tracking and Augmented Elec of his own, a Rhino and a Highmane, so I feel like both players have kind of lent towards the same direction here, except Tyler gaining a Tracking since he was only running a 1-of in his deck.
Yeah, he's also removed Unleash because this was built with Warrior in mind. Losing Spring Paw, as you mentioned, is not too great. The same reason for losing Shimmerfly not being great. Yeah, and Deadly Shot, I'd say, is pretty decent in the mirror just because it loads up your Zul'jin more. And the Tracking, I like it in the mirror because it just gets you to Master's Call more often. And a lot of the time, it doesn't go to fatigue. You just want to make sure that you get the better Zul'jin if it goes to that long game. And then Elec, for the same reason as we mentioned, is just something on curve. But really, the main reason for switching to tertiary in the mirror is the +2 Highmanes and the +1 Rhino, which I think is also very relevant.
Yeah, and I'm quite excited because this may revert back to, although I do like Hunter right now, old-style Hunter mirrors of whoever could attack with a Highmane first often wins the game. And I was going to say it's probably whoever lands the Highmane first often does pretty well because these decks aren't running true secret packages. Yes, there is a Rat Trap in Tyler's deck and you can generate secrets in some other ways, but overall it's not like, okay, they've played Highmane, but I can isolate it and use a Freezing Trap to help. So let's just get into it. Tyler on match point here. It's going to be going up against Shaxy, who needs to fight back to stay in this series and to continue to be unbeaten in Grandmasters. He does need to slay Tyler here.
Yeah, and already with the mulligan, you saw Shaxy throw away the Zul'jin in the mirror, and I think that's largely because he did not have Master's Call to go along with it. The keep of the Hyena, I think, is quite good because you know Tyler is cutting a Spring Paw, which is one of the best ways to answer it. And he's also cut the Headhunter's Hatchet.
Yep. So Tyler now, he has the end of the deck. It just doesn't quite have the beginning. does have Timberwolf, and I was going to say, Tyler beat me to it, but I was going to say, I actually just don't mind Timberwolf on one. You're doing less fancy things in this version. You're also not running the unleashes for the big Timber unleash turns. Just get it down as a 1-1. You're kind of lacking some early drops anyway because of the way the deck has been built. So why not chuck it down and try and just slowly crawl towards this high main in hand?
Yeah, I mean, the only real punish is your opponent having both an answer and a hyena, so the spring paw plus hyena. If your opponent takes their turn to just spring paw that down, I don't think you're too upset, and then maybe that gets you closer to safely being able to animal companion on an empty board. And no hesitation, just play the second one, make him have the spring paw.
Yeah, and the thing as well is if your opponent does have that hyena, well, you don't have a good way to deal with it anyway. In the deck overall, because Tyler's actually a hyena, a hatchet, a spring paw down, and unleash. So I like just getting something on the board here. Shaxy now has his turn to play Master's Call, which makes that hand look very deep indeed and full of value. But Tyler is the aggressor this time.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. He got Huffer too, and Tyler's turns, at least the actions from what we can see, are over before Shaxy's Master's Call animation has barely ended.
Yeah, you can only play with the cards you've got that are green. And so far, Tyler's hand has been one drop into Huffer.
Crazy.
Look at this skill command.
Yeah,
There's still another minimum of 6 damage push this turn.
Yeah,
minimum.
I mean, Tyler's
Nope,
just not had... sorry, Shaxy's just not had any efficient answers to these little Timberwolves that have just pushed so much damage over the turns.
I really like the Timberwolf. Obviously, the second Timberwolf made it significantly better, but it wouldn't have happened unless he played it on one.
True story.
Also, the Shimmerfly he drew, he actually played the one from the Master's Call. So just a small thing, but it might mess with the cards that Shaxy thinks Tyler has. Maybe he thinks that the Shimmerfly could be a kill command, for example.
And Tyler knows that he's free to do this because he has the read. Shaxy has no spring paws, and Shaxy has cut double unleash from the tertiary deck, so there's just no answers. I mean, he could, in theory, have a mark shot to answer something, but that's so inefficient.
That was about as good as it was going to get that turn, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
And Misha.
And my goodness, Tyler has Scale Hide, Hyena.
I wonder if he ever goes for the
Rhino? Or...
Yeah, it doesn't feel great, but it's definitely scary enough. And again, Shaxy's used a kill command. He doesn't have tons of stuff. I think the Hyena might be better overall. He's just going to go wide again because there's just no punish. He even got a Master's Call from the Shimmerfly.
I mean, he just knows that Shaxy's had a tough time answering all of this, and he can just fill out the curve nicely this turn as well, even though he's had to trade away one of the Timberwolves. Yeah, it's fine.
But this is better to keep the high health minion on board as well, and it also buffed the Hyena, which means the Hyena is not dead to just a kill command again. Shaxy's just going to have to go for it. And
he's got him.
I think, to me, that is just going to be game. The shrug from Tyler, and I don't blame him, a bit of a clap too, but you blinked and may have missed it. But sometimes the games go like that, and as you quite rightly pointed out, when you cut Unleash the Hounds, it's such a direct and straightforward punish card, right? You know exactly what it does every single time. If you're wide on the board, they can answer it, especially when it's 1 health minions. If they don't have Unleash the Hounds, go as wide as you want. There's literally no punish.
Tyler, from college student to fashion photographer to breakdancer to Hearthstone player and now marathon runner. Apparently, he just did that in a blink of an eye. That's crazy, but you know, that is just sometimes how the mirror works, and good job to Tyler for realizing that with no unleashes in Shaxy's tertiary deck, and granted he wasn't sure that Shaxy was on tertiary, but you could put him on it because that's generally the pick in the mirror. He just took advantage, snowballed, and got there.
It's one thing as well, like in mirror matches when you both have similar tertiary decks, if you feel it's correct to change, then it would feel more weird that your opponent doesn't, in case there's some weird mind games going on. But if, you know, these players are at a very high level of Hearthstone competition here, if they deem it correct to change to a deck, then it probably is, and their opponent should do that. I do believe we are getting Tyler ready for an interview. I don't know if he's ready quite yet, though. Okay, he's not quite ready yet, so we'll just make sure he is. I don't know what takes Tyler so long. But yeah, this was just a huge matchup as well, because not only did Tyler get the win and go in 2-0 this weekend, never mind, let's get Tyler on the call. He's ready now. It's quicker than I thought it would be. Congratulations again, Tyler. Good job. So we can talk about the games in just a minute, however quick they may well have been. But overall, how are you feeling not only going 2-0 this weekend, but also being the first player to beat Shaxy and sort of reduce his lead potential in Grandmasters?
Yeah, I literally didn't care about any of the other matches or like the one yesterday. I just wanted to get him. Like 5-0, I couldn't let him get 6-0, man. There's no way that I let him dominate that hard. So,
Okay,
yeah, I had to get him.
so it was less about beating Shaxy specifically and more about taking down the person who is unbeaten in the league right now.
Yeah, maybe a combination of both. Like,
Okay.
I see him as a rival, so yeah.
Ooh.
Okay,
I love
cool.
the storylines. And now, Tyler, I wanted to ask, how often do you keep Zul'jin in the mirror? Is it dependent on having Masters Call in your opening mulligan as well?
Yeah, I tend to keep it pretty often, but like if my hand is absolute trash, then I probably don't keep it. But like if I already have a play leading onto it, then I usually keep it. I think
Okay.
I keep it more often than not.
Yeah, especially with Master's Call already there, right? It
Yeah.
feels like a given with that one. And we talked about it very briefly just while you were getting ready for your interview, but were you convinced that Shaxy had switched to tertiary?
Yeah, I just assumed that everyone would do that.
Okay, we
Yeah.
thought so. It was just obviously if he hadn't switched Unleash the Hounds could have been a problem, but you played in a way that was very aggressive, one, because that's what your hand did, but also it was susceptible to an Unleash, but if you were that confident that he'd switch, then it was completely safe, right?
Yeah, I just assumed that he queued tertiary. There's just no way you don't queue tertiary. Like
Okay.
again, high mains are just too good, and yeah, him cutting Unleash that hurts him a lot. And also, like, I was a bit confused because like I saw him keeping one card in a mulligan, but his best play was calling Master's Call into like my board of like minions that were
Right.
killing him.
Yeah, I think you're just a little bit too quick for Shaxy in that game. And finally, I just want to get your thoughts. We've got, effectively, we blinked and this meta was over because not only the game, but the meta. What do you think of the buffs? And does anything specifically stand out to you that you're looking forward to play and testing with?
I mean, would that reveal what I'm going to play next week?
I mean, you could just talk very generally about the cards.
You're free to decline to comment.
I think like the Crystology buff will
Okay.
make Paladin the nuts. And yeah, maybe I'll bring it next week. We'll see.
But maybe you won't, of course.
Maybe
Maybe
I
you
won't.
won't. Mystery. Okay, well, good job again. I'll let you get on with your weekend, mate.
Yeah, thank you very much, man. See ya.
See ya. Okay, so Tyler going 2-0, and obviously, I think just having that note of, yes, I took down the group leader is very important to him very, very clearly, as he did beat Shaxy, go 2-0, and that actually puts Tyler on a 4-2 record now, which is going to be very, very good for him. It puts him even further up into the table, and maybe he can chase down that #1 spot.
Yeah, and a very strong performance this week, particularly in the mid-hunter mirror. I think he went a total of 4-1 in game score, and that is pretty impressive indeed. So good job to Tyler. And now Shaxy with his first loss. I wonder if it probably doesn't feel too bad to be so far ahead. I mean, I feel like there's two types of Hearthstone players who kind of like, there's some that are very, very in the whole confidence mode, I think, and they're like, yeah, I got this. And others who are very realistic and pragmatic, like, yes, it's Hearthstone, so at some point I'm going to lose. So I wonder where Shaxy falls there.
Geez, feedback there. It's not realistic to be confident, which is a very interesting thing. But that was match number 3 of 6 today. We've got Blitzchung versus Dawn coming up. It's going to be Hunter versus Rogue Masterclass. So don't go anywhere, and we're going to be right back.